Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister. We are in Bible study. We're in the Niv. We are in the book of 2 Chronicles. We are in chapter 28. Ahaz, king of Judah. Remember, this is written, they think, by the prophet Ezra. They don't really know, but at the time of Ezra, contemporary with him in the 500 BCE time frame, during the Babylonian diaspora, and all this stuff is written down because they're trying to keep their culture alive in a time when they're in a nation that's trying to wipe their culture out. Okay? Ahaz, king of Judah. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. Unlike David, his father, he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord. He walked in the ways of the kings of Israel and made cast idols for worshiping the Baals. Or Baals, as they're usually said, B-A-A-L-S. He burned sacrifices in the valley of Ben Hinnom and sacrificed his sons in the fire. So, he literally killed his own children in ritual sacrifice. Following the detestable ways of the nations the Lord had driven out before the Israelites, he offered sacrifices and burned incense at the high places, on the hilltops, and under every spreading tree. So, Tanet, who was worshipped by the Sidonians and the Phoenicians, literally required child sacrifice. You can see in archaeological evidence of in their locations, not just anything you get to hear here in the Bible. They find archaeological evidence of that in their locations. When they go do things, it's terrible, I know. Therefore, verse 5, therefore the Lord, his God, handed him over to the king of Aram. The Arameans defeated him and took his people as prisoners and brought them to Damascus. He had also given into the hands of the king of Israel. He was also given into the hands of the king of Israel, who inflicted heavy casualties on him. In one day, Pekah, P-E-K-A-H, son of Remaliah, R-E-M-A-L-I-A-H, killed 120,000 soldiers in Judah because Judah had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. Zikri, an Ephraimite warrior, killed Maaseiah, M-A-A-S-E-I-A-H, the king's son. Azrikam, A-Z-R-I-K-A-M, the officer in charge of the palace, and Elkanah, E-L-K-A-N-A-H, second to the king. So that would be about roughly half his army was taken out, along with those important people. The Israelites took captive their kinsmen, 200,000 wives, sons, and daughters. They also took a great deal of plunder, which they carried back to Samaria. But the prophet of the Lord, named Oded, was there. And he went out to meet the army when it returned to Samaria. He said to them, because the Lord, the God of your fathers, was angry with Judah, he gave them into your hand. But you have slaughtered them in a rage that reaches to heaven. Now you intend to make the men and women of Judah and Jerusalem your slaves. But aren't you also guilty of sins against the Lord your God? Now listen to me. Send back your fellow countrymen you have taken as prisoners, for the Lord's fierce anger rests on you. Then some of the leaders in Ephraim, Azariah, son of Jehohanan, Jehohanan, Berechiah, Berekiah, son of Mishillemoth, Mshillemoth, And then Jehezekiah, Jehizkiah, son of Shallum, Shallum, and Amasa, Amasa, son of Hadalai, Hadlai, confronted those who were arriving from war. "You must not bring those prisoners here," they said, "or we will be guilty before the Lord. Do you intend to add to our sin and guilt? For our guilt is already great, and its fierce anger rests on Israel." So the soldiers gave up the prisoners and the plunder in the presence of the officials and all the assembly. The men designated by name took the prisoners, and from the plunder they clothed all who were naked. They provided them with clothes, sandals, food, and drink, and healing balm. All those who were weak they put on donkeys, so they took them back to their fellow countrymen at Jericho in the city of palms and returned to Samaria. So they were watching inhumanity happen, and they put their foot down as a peoples and made them back off to treat the people better. At that time, King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria for help. One manuscript in Hebrew, the Septuagint, which is Greek, the Vulgate, which is Latin, kings plural, to the kings of Assyria for help. Then the Edomites had again came and attacked Judah and carried away prisoners, while the Philistines had raided the towns in the foothills and in the Negev of Judah. They captured and occupied Beth Shemesh, Ajalon, and Gederoth, as well as Soko, Timnah, and Gimzo, Gimzo, with their surrounding villages. The Lord had humbled Judah because of Ahaz, king of Israel, that is Judah, as in frequently of 2 Chronicles, for he had promoted wickedness in Judah and had been most unfaithful to the Lord. Tiglath Pileser, Tiglath dash Pileser. It's got a footnote of C. It's a variant. Is Tilgaf hyphen Pilneser. Pilsner to me, Pilsner, which makes me, of course, think of beer, but that's not what it means here. King of Assyria came to him, but he gave him trouble instead of help. Ahaz took some of the things from the temple of the Lord and from the royal palace, from the princes, and presented it to the king of Assyria, but that did not help him. In his time of trouble, King Ahaz became even more unfaithful to the Lord. He offered sacrifices to the gods of Damascus, who had defeated him, for he thought, since the gods of the kings of Aram have helped them, I will sacrifice to them so they will help me. But they were his downfall and the downfall of all of Israel. Ahaz gathered together the furnishings from the temple of God and took them away. And cut them up. He shut the doors of the Lord's temple and set up altars at every street corner in Jerusalem. In every town in Judah, he built high places to burn sacrifices to other gods and provoke the Lord, the God of his fathers, to anger. The other events of his reign and his ways, from beginning to end, are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. Ahaz rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of Jerusalem, but he was not placed in the tombs of the kings of Israel. And Hezekiah, his son, succeeded him as king. So, if you want to find out what King Hezekiah is up to, King Hezekiah, I'll have to, you should note that if you, there's a National Geographic show, I think it was Albert Lynn, but there was also articles, news articles, which I did post on my Facebook page, which is of the same name as the channel, about them finding actual archaeological evidence, seals placed on like jugs, and like would be putting on bags, like bag seals and jug seals, that indicate that these jugs were set aside for the tax given to King Hezekiah. So King Hezekiah, a real person. And if you want to find out what he was up to, you're going to need to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv. We are in the book of 2 Chronicles. Hezekiah, chapter 29. Hezekiah purifies the temple. And Hezekiah is a king that they have actually found archaeological evidence, like bag seals and seals on jugs, with his name on them, indicating that whatever this was set aside as tax for the king. So they actually found that out there in the middle of the desert and the various archaeological digs. King Hezekiah, real king. Hezekiah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother was named Abijah, 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 daughter of Zechariah. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. In the first month of the first year of his reign, he opened the doors of the temple of the Lord and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites, assembled them in the square on the east side, and said, "Listen to me, Levites. Consecrate yourselves now, and consecrate the temple of the Lord, the God of your fathers. Remove all defilement from the sanctuary. Our fathers were unfaithful. They did evil in the eyes of the Lord our God and forsook him. They turned their faces away from the Lord's dwelling place and turned their backs on him. They also shut the doors of the portico and put out the lamps. They did not burn incense or present any offerings at the sanctuary to the God of Israel. Therefore the anger of the Lord fell on Judah and Jerusalem, and he has made them an object of dread and horror and scorn, as you can see with your own eyes. This is why our fathers have fallen by the sword, and why our sons and daughters and wives are in captivity. Now I intend to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, so that his fierce anger will turn from us." Okay, this is important, okay, because it's like, what do you mean in captivity? He's a king and he's free, ready, sort of to reign, but part of what's there is those things like what the Asherah poles and the stuff like that. What does the Asherah pole mean? The Asherah pole means every female in their entire community has a sexual slavery debt to pay off. And they have to have sex with a certain number of strangers that, of course, they cannot deny, whoever it is, until they hit a certain dollar amount, and then they're free. And they're required to do that from their virginity until they have paid it off. So they are indeed in captivity, as long as these worship of these things exist in the land. My sons, do not be negligent now, for the Lord has chosen you to stand before him and serve him, to minister before him and to burn incense. Then these Levites set to work, from the Kohathites, Kohathites, Mahatha, Mahath, son of Amasiah, Amasai, and Joel, son of Azariah. From the Merarites, Mrarites, Kish, son of Abdi, and Azariah, son of Jehillel, Jehallelel. From the Gershonites, that's like Moses type people, Joha, son of Zimmah, Zimmah, Eden, son of Joah. From the descendants of Elizaphan, Elizaphan, Shimri, and Jeiel, Jeiel. The descendants of Asaph, Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah. From the descendants of Heman, yes, Heman. Jehiel, Jehiel, and Shimi, Shimei. From the descendants of Jeduthun, Jeduthun, Shemaiah, Shemaiah, and Uzziel, Uzziel. When they had assembled their brothers and consecrated themselves, they went in to purify the temple of the Lord as the king had ordered. Following the word of the Lord, the priests went into the sanctuary of the Lord to purify it. They brought out to the courtyard of the temple, of the Lord's temple, everything unclean that they found in the temple of the Lord. The Levites took it and carried it out to the Kidron Valley, where they began consecration on the first day of the first month, and by the 8th day of the month they reached the portico of the Lord. For 8 more days they consecrated the temple of the Lord itself, finishing on the 16th day of the first month. That's a lot of cleaning every day for all those people. Then they went in to King Hezekiah and reported, "We have purified the entire temple of the Lord, the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the table for setting out the consecrated bread and all its articles. We have prepared and consecrated all the articles that King Ahaz removed in his unfaithfulness while he was king. They are now in the front of the Lord's altar." Early the next morning, King Hezekiah gathered the city's officials together and went up to the temple of the Lord. They brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 male lambs, and 7 male goats as a sin offering for the kingdom, for the sanctuary, and for Judah. The king commanded the priests, the descendants of Aaron, to offer these on the altar of the Lord. So they slaughtered the bulls, and the priests took the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Next they slaughtered the rams and sprinkled their blood on the altar. Then they slaughtered the lambs and sprinkled their blood on the altar. The goats for the sin offering were brought before the king and the assembly, and they laid their hands on them. Then the priests slaughtered the goats and presented their blood on the altar for a sin offering, to atone for all Israel, because the king had ordered the burnt offering and sin offering for all Israel. He stationed the Levites in the temple of the Lord with cymbals, harps, lyres in the way prescribed by David and Gad, the king's seer, and Nathan the prophet. This was commanded by the Lord through his prophets. So the Levites stood ready with David's instruments, and their priests with their trumpets. Hezekiah gave the order to sacrifice the burnt offering on the altar. As the offering began, singing to the Lord began also, accompanied by trumpets and the instruments of King David of Israel. The whole assembly bowed and worshipped, while the singers sang and the trumpeters played. All this continued until the sacrifice of the burnt offering was completed. When the offerings were finished, the king and everyone present with him knelt down and worshipped. King Hezekiah and his officials ordered the Levites to praise the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. So they sang praises with gladness and bowed their heads and worshipped. Then Hezekiah said, "You have now dedicated yourself to the Lord. Come and bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the temple of the Lord." So the assembly brought sacrifices and thank offerings, and all whose heart were willing brought burnt offerings. The number of burnt offerings the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 male lambs, all of them for burnt offerings to the Lord. The animals consecrated as sacrifices amounted to 600 bulls, 3,000 sheep and goats. The priests, however, were too few to skin all the burnt offerings, so the kinsmen, the Levites, helped them until the task was finished, until the other priests had been consecrated. For the Levites had been more conscientious in consecrating themselves than the priests had been. The priests got lackadaisical, see? So now you can't present yourself. Pays to be diligent, man. There were burnt offerings in abundance, together with the fat of the fellowship offerings, that's A, traditionally called peace offerings, and drink offerings that accompanied the burnt offerings. So the service of the temple of the Lord was re-established. Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced at what God had brought about for his people, because it was done so quickly. Right? When God wants something done, he doesn't muck about. Glad to see it kind of thing. Glad to see it. The next video, also about King Hezekiah, and more proof of him following the law the right way. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv, and we are in Second Chronicles, chapter 30, written during the time of the prophet Ezra, during Babylonian diaspora, to help the Jewish people remember who they were when their nation is doing what nations do, trying to strip them of who they were. So, Hezekiah, who was an actual king, not like, I know a lot of people are like, no, it's all fiction. Nope. They are archaeologically found evidence, seals on jugs and things that have his seal on it, indicating it's a tax that has to be paid. It's part of a paid tax with the contents inside those jugs, whatever they were. His name on there. So real archaeological evidence found out there in the Middle East of Hezekiah. Hezekiah celebrates the Passover. Hezekiah sent word to all Israel and Judah, and also wrote letters to Ephraim and Manasseh, inviting them to come to the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem and celebrate the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel. The king and his officials and the whole assembly of Jerusalem decided to celebrate the Passover in the second month. They had not been able to celebrate it at the regular time because not enough priests had consecrated themselves. Oh, and the people had not assembled in Jerusalem. So somebody forgot to somebody forgot pre-work. The plan seemed right to both king and the whole assembly. They decided to send a proclamation throughout Israel from Beersheba to Dan, calling the people to come to Jerusalem and celebrate the Passover of the Lord. And to celebrate the Passover of the Lord, the God of Israel. That's what it is. I had lost my place there momentarily. It had not been celebrated in a large numbers according to what was written. Okay? Not a lot of people were celebrating the Passover. At the king's command, couriers went throughout Israel and Judah with letters from the king and his officials, which read, "People of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may return to you who are left, who have escaped from the hand of the kings of Assyria. Do not be like your fathers and brothers who are unfaithful to the Lord, the God of their fathers, so that he made them an object of horror. So they're being reminded of the times that the prophets said they were going to get taken away. Do not be like your fathers and brothers who were unfaithful to the Lord, the God of their fathers, so that he made them an object of horror as you see. Do not be stiff-necked as your fathers were. Submit to the Lord, come to the sanctuary, which he has consecrated forever. Serve the Lord your God, so that his fierce anger will turn away from you. If you return to the Lord, then your brothers and your children will be shown compassion by their captors and will come back to this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and compassionate, and he will not turn his face from you if you return to him. It's okay. The couriers went from town to town in Ephraim and Manasseh, as far as Zebulun, but people scorned and ridiculed them. Nevertheless, some men of Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and went to Jerusalem. Also in Judah, the hand of God was on the people to give them unity of mind to carry out what the king and his officials had ordered, following the word of the Lord. So all of Judah was like, okay, king, we'll celebrate the Passover. A very large crowd of people assembled in Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the 2nd month. They removed the altars in Jerusalem and cleared away the incense altars and threw them into the Kidron Valley. They slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the 2nd month. The priests and the Levites were ashamed and consecrated themselves and brought burnt offerings to the temple of the Lord. Then they took up their regular positions as prescribed in the law of Moses, the man of God. The priest sprinkled the blood, handed to them by the Levites. Since many in the crowd had not consecrated themselves, the Levites had to kill the Passover lambs for all those who were not ceremonially clean and could not consecrate their lambs to the Lord. Although most of the many people who came from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun had not purified themselves, yet they ate the Passover contrary to what was written. So they didn't even really remember the law anymore, even though they showed up. But there were Levites that needed to step in for the children of Aaron because they were not ceremonially clean. That's not... Okay. But Hezekiah prayed for these people, saying, "May the Lord, who is good, pardon everyone who sets his heart on seeking God, the Lord, the God of his fathers, even if he is not clean according to the rules of the sanctuary." And the Lord heard Hezekiah and healed the people. The Israelites who were present in Jerusalem celebrated the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days with great rejoicing, while the Levites and the priests sang to the Lord every day, accompanied by the Lord's instruments of praise. A footnote of A. Or the priests praised the Lord every day with resounding instruments belonging to the Lord. So these would be instruments David made. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to the Levites, who showed good understanding of the service of the Lord. For 7 days they ate their assigned portion and offered fellowship offerings, traditionally called peace offerings, and praised the Lord, the God of their fathers. The whole assembly then agreed to celebrate the festival 7 more days. So for another 7 days, they celebrated joyfully. Hezekiah, king of Judah, provided 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep and goats for the assembly, and the officials provided them with 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep and goats. A great number of priests consecrated themselves. The entire assembly of Judah rejoiced, along with the priests and the Levites, and all who had assembled from Israel, including the aliens who had come from Israel and those who lived in Judah. There was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the days of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem. The priests and the Levites stood to bless the people, and God heard them, for their prayer reached heaven, his holy dwelling place. So even in the time of King Hezekiah, while the Temple of Solomon existed, they didn't believe God lived in the temple. They believed that God listened for the prayers that came from the temple. At no point was he trapped there. It's good to know. If you want to find out what goes on next in the reign of King Hezekiah, you're going to need to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends. So, Bible study. We're in the Niv Romans. We're in chapter 2. We're going to go from chapter 2, verse 25, all the way through the end of chapter 2. And then we're going to go into chapter 3 until verse 8. We're finishing up. Remember, this is a letter from Paul to other people who already have faith. In this case, he is having a discussion with the Pharisees, because he's trying to essentially argue why the Gentiles should be allowed to become Christian without becoming Jewish first. So, i.e., they don't need to go through certain religious ceremonies. And he's arguing it is not the ceremony and the being born into it that actually makes one a person of faith. It's about the actions you take. So, verse 25. Circumcision has value if you observe the law. But if you break the law, you have become as though you have not been circumcised. Because in this culture, that it makes them in a covenant with God. It makes their anatomy a holy object in their culture. If those who are not circumcised keep the law's requirements, they will not be regarded. Will they not be regarded as though they were circumcised? The one who is not circumcised physically and yet obeys the law will condemn you, who even though you have the written code and the circumcision, you are a lawbreaker. A man is not a Jew if he is only one outwardly, nor is circumcision merely outward and physical. No, a man is a Jew if he is one inwardly, and circumcision is circumcision of the heart by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a man's praise is not from men, but from God. Now, chapter 3, verse 1, this parable is called God's faithfulness. What advantage, then, is there in being a Jew? Or what value is there in circumcision? Much in every way. First of all, they have been entrusted with the very few words of God. And what if some did not have faith? Will their lack of faith nullify God's faithfulness? Not at all. Let God be true, and every man a liar, as it is written, so you may be proven right when you speak, and prevail when you judge. But if our unrighteousness brings out God's righteousness more clearly, what shall we say? That God is unjust in bringing his wrath on us? I am using an argument. I'm using a human argument. It's in brackets. Because he wants you to know he doesn't really feel that way. Certainly not. If that were so, how could God judge the world? Someone might argue, if my falsehood enhances God's truthfulness and so increases his glory, why am I still condemned as a sinner? Why not say, why not say, as we are being slanderously reported as saying, as some claim, let us do evil that good may result. Their condemnation is deserved. So he's calling out the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, and he's, calling out the fact that it doesn't matter how many of the rules you appear to follow.
It's National Gummy Worm Day.
So my Alexa wants us to know it's National Gummy Worm Day. Keep that in mind. That, and it's also the anniversary of Richard Nixon announcing he's going to go to China. I wonder what other big things will happen today. If not, maybe we should all just enjoy some gummy worms. I mean, I love a good gummy worm. Who doesn't? He's pointing out here that it's a thing you do. It's not just what you are. I liken that. I have a phrase for that. I use it as Christian as a noun versus Christian as a verb. And those are two very different things. For me, you're only really a Christian if it's Christian as a verb. Christianity is something you do. You get up every day and you consciously choose, this is my Messiah, this is who I am. I'm going to live my life by the tenets he teaches, by what he said. He said to love one another. I'm going to try to be the best version of me that I can be for the day, and that makes one a Christian. Having it as a noun means you don't need to hold yourself to any particular conduct as long as you're using that word. Then it's okay to be disrespectful to other people. And I don't like that. That's not my way. And I don't encourage anybody else to be that way either. So let's just remember that from the very beginning, one of the things that was supposed to be a difference between the existing conditions, which was the Pharisees, and the hypocrisy that they had going on over there, where they were not following the law and they were looking for the loopholes. If you were going through the world looking for reasons that you were allowed to be disrespectful to other people, then you should re-examine what it really means to be Christian, in my opinion. And I'm sorry if you don't particularly like that, but it's going to be where there'll be problems if we knew each other in real life. The good news is you likely don't know me in real life, so it doesn't really matter what my opinion is. I encourage you to be the best version of you today. And for you to remember, it's always been meant to be a thing you do, not just a thing you say. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. I am an ordained minister. We are in Bible study, and we are in the Niv. We are in Psalms, Book 1, Psalm 22. Now, we're not doing the whole Psalm 22 in this video. We're going to do 1 through 18, and in a follow-up video, we'll do 19 through 37, because it's a long poem, this one. For the director of music, to the tune of the doe of the morning, a psalm of David. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? So far from the words of my groan? Oh my God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, and am not silent. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the praise of Israel. In you our fathers put their trust. They trusted and you delivered them. They cried to you and were saved. In you they trusted and were not disappointed. I am a worm and not a man, scorned by men and despised by people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults. They shake their heads. He trusts in the Lord. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. Yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me trust in you, even at my mother's breast. From birth I was cast upon you. From my mother's womb you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for when trouble is near, there is no one to help. Many bulls surround me, strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Roaring lions, tearing their prey, open their mouths wide against me. I am pouring out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax. It is melted away within me. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. Dogs have surrounded me, and bands of evil men have encircled me. They have pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them and cast lots for my clothing. Yeah. David wrote poems, and when he did, he was channeling the Holy Spirit. That's what happens to his great grandson.